You're telling me you don't want to watch the movie with me? I got plenty of movies. It's not good to watch a movie alone. I don't recommend it. You want to have a buddy to watch a movie with. I review it for you. I'll review it. Movies are good to watch with people. You want to have company, It's never dully when you're with Sully.
It's too much.
We gotta do this. We have to do it.
You've been following me.
And we got unfinished business. You don't think I'm a bad person?
All I think is that I love you.
And today we have Bones and All. So Bones and All is one of those examples of a film that, surprisingly, not A24, first of all. It feels like it should be an A24 joint. It's just big enough where it's been released, nationally in theaters, but I haven't really been hearing friends talk about it unless I'm the one to bring it up and show them. The director of this one is a Luca Guadagnino? Italiano filmmaker. Directed such films as the remake of Suspiria, which I heard was a decent remake. One of these days I will sit down and do a double feature to watch both the original and the remake of Suspiria, but until then, he did a film that mostly everybody really enjoyed, Call Me By Your Name. I never got a chance to see this one. I will watch it one day. Again, I hear mostly good things, an occasional complaint here or there, but from what I can tell from these two films and others, this director seems to know what he's doing when it comes to making a film. Star power, most everybody knows. He's not the lead protagonist, but he's the secondary for sure, the love interest. Timothée Chalamet over here. He's there. I've mentioned him actually in several reviews I've done in the past, but I kind of know him as Paul from Dune, Paul Atreides from House Atreides, so I really enjoyed him in Dune. Of course, he's been in many, many other things, including Call Me By Your Name, which this director's done before. So, additionally, we have a gal that I was unfamiliar with. Her name is Taylor Russell. Evidently, she's been featured in such things, and her IMDb is very large. I think larger than Chalamet's, honestly, but she's been featured in things such as the Lost in Space Netflix series, but she was also in, I think, one, if not both, of the Escape Room movies that came out recently. I don't know why I skipped them. They didn't look bad per se, I just wasn't crazy about seeing them, but I'm sure they're fun watching. And on a personal note, I've definitely covered him before. Mark Rylance is in this. I love him in whatever he's in. I reviewed him most recently in The Outfit. He was the star of that, but yeah, Mark Rylance, he's great. Love his character. The character's not a good person, but I like the character a lot. Getting into it, what's the plot of Bones and All? Literally, it's girl runs away from home because she has this affliction where she has this need to feast on human flesh, not just blood. I thought going into this it was a vampire thing. I thought it was, we have a need to feed on blood, and it was going to be another vampire movie. No, this is full on cannibalism. She feels the craving to eat people. And as she's running away, she meets two fellow eater, as they're called, eaters, or most of them call each other eaters in this world, because apparently there's more than one, and it's an affliction that affects not a lot of people, but more than you'd think. But she meets Chalamet on the road, who also is a young eater, and from there they're trying to figure out how to survive. She wants to try to find her biological mother, and also, of course, because of course they fall in love together. So just preface this, the trailer makes this film seem as if it's going to be a horror film, straight up. It has very dark undertones, and with a little side of romance. Let me just warn you ahead of time, the film is definitely much more a romance with undertones of horror. Not to say there isn't still horror that happens throughout the film, but it's definitely a romance horror. That's a better synopsis of the genres of this film. Overall, I really liked it. I have some complaints. Shocker, I know. I got one friend in particular where if I don't like a film that he likes, he's like, let me guess, you hated it. No, it's not that. It's just, I'm gonna critique it. It's not a perfect film. Biggest thing I loved about this film is the cinematography. I think it's beautiful in times. I really, Really enjoyed the cinematography, the camera work. I like how it's a film I think meant to take place sometime in the 90s, I believe. So there's almost a film filter or grain, some type, but it makes it feel period authentic. But I love the cinematography, so the visual style of this film. From the trailer and from the film overall, I think the story is very interesting. I mean, it's definitely unique. I mean, I can't think of the last time that I've seen a cannibal love story. I'm sure they've existed, but for that to be the premise of your film and for you to execute it seriously and do it as well as you did, I mean, that deserves some props on its own. It's good. It's a good film that it also happens to be a cannibal love story. So it's just super interesting, because then you start thinking, oh wait, who does this afflict? Why does it afflict them? What are the rules to it? Which they delve a little bit into, but not as much as I would like them to. But I was genuinely curious to see how the film would go, how this romance would blossom, where it would take our characters, how they would find their way forward. I was curious. At a baseline, every character, main character or otherwise, they all were interesting, I thought. I think our leads are interesting characters. They are definitely flawed characters, but we explore that as they both develop and try to live with each other and find a way forward. Any type of antagonistic forces, or even people that are not as good or kind-hearted as they are, they're dark and twisted, but they're also interesting characters in their own right, and they're brought to life well by the actors. And again, I keep using the word, but characters, story, narrative, progression, everything was interesting. I thought it was a lot of really cool concepts. Little side note, this film did something cool with their title cards. Whenever like the seasons change or whenever they go to a new state, it gives you the abbreviation of the state. And normally I wouldn't say anything about title cards, because they would just be like, boom, here we are, boom, here we are. But I like the little artistic tweak of they were mostly translucent, so you could still see the letters, but it was translucent, so it wasn't too intrusive to the film. I don't know, I think I like the style of it. I haven't really seen people do title cards a whole lot that way. And as always, films got to get a whole rating for me on the merit of the practical effects involved. This film, I might have mentioned it earlier, I don't know if I did, but I'm sure you can put two and two together. It's about cannibals. So although they're cannibals in love, and while there isn't a large amount of gore, whenever violence does occur, it is shockingly gory. Not too gory, I think, but it is definitely gory. There is blood and there is gore in this film. They're only in a few scenes, so I think it's used to good effect, and it's used effectively in the scenes, so they accentuate the violence, which is what I think violence and gore should do. But just be warned, there's definitely gore. Like, people get eaten, oftentimes alive, so just keep that in mind as a, I don't know, gore trigger warning. However, like I said, the film's not perfect. I felt like I was going crazy till I asked a couple of my friends and they agreed. Toward the third act, I think Chalamet's line delivery is just a little off. It's weird. He does a pretty good job for the first two acts, but then there's some scenes that are meant to have very great emotional impact. There's one scene on a hill, if you've seen the movie you know it, that's fine. But there's a scene before that in a parking lot, and definitely some scenes after that. His reading of the lines just feels, I don't know if he's holding back or if it's just a bit stiff or something, but it was off. Not bad, just like he just needed to put a little bit extra of the Shalamussy into it, and just he wasn't quite getting there for me. Some reviewers have said, oh my god, the chemistry with these two is palpable. Disagree. I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but while I could buy that they would fall in love and become a couple, I don't think they were dripping in chemistry. Like, yeah, they were macking on each other, and yeah, they were falling in love with each other, but I didn't get like, oh my god, these two have such great chemistry, they're such a cute couple, they're so in love. I didn't get those vibes. They are a believable couple. I think that they eventually are bonding together and are growing together, and I believe they love each other, but I just don't. It's okay, cool, they're a couple, I believe it, that's about it. I don't feel like they're madly in love, but if they tell me they are, I'll believe them. This film also has a lot of wasted potential. Like I said, everything's cool about this film, cool concepts, narrative, potential lore, characters, but there's some characters that I think were introduced that they added some more layers to the film, and they're either used for one scene and then forgotten, or they're only used for like 2 or 3 scenes, and it's important that they're used, but I don't know, maybe I'm just bitching. They could have just done more, I feel like they could have explored these concepts more. I still had questions about this cannibalism. I would have liked to have seen a little wasted potential for really cool concepts. And my last, I guess, biggish complaint is I wasn't terribly fond of the ending. it makes sense. I get why they would end the film the way they did. I get from the director's perspective, even from the character's perspective, but definitely between Chalamet's line delivery in the end of the film and just kind of how things ended and where they would have gone from there, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of it. Just the film ended and I was like, oh, okay, sure. But don't get me wrong, I'm not here to shit on the film. I'm actually here to applaud it for the most part. It's really good. It has a lot more going for it than against it. If anything, I'm only upset, a little bit disappointed, because a lot of these cool concepts that are touched on in the film, whether characters, narrative, lore, or otherwise, are not explored as much as I would have liked them to have been explored and developed. Maybe I've never been as madly and deeply in love with somebody as this couple was. Maybe I just can't relate to it, and that's why I'm not connecting, but call me crazy. But overall, Bones and All is a really good cannibal romance film. If you don't mind a mild number of extreme-ish scenes of gore, if you don't mind that, then if you can stomach that, I think it's good. It's definitely unsettling, it's depressing, but it's also like a little bit funny here and there. It's romantical, not a word, but here we are. I think all these reasons and more, I'd still be willing to give it I'd give it a low 4 out of 5. A low 4 out of 5. It's definitely above average. It is not a perfect film. I think as a film on its own, it accomplishes most of what it sets out to do. Overall, I would watch it again. I would definitely watch it again. I might even buy it when it comes out on Blu-ray or whatever. It's worth a watch. I think it was actually really good. Just not perfect, and there's still some things that upset me about it. But that's all I gotta say about Bones and All. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. Goodbye, travelers.